Hello and welcome to the Catboy Rants. I know I was going to talk about RPGs and, well, I had this out and I started reading through it and I'm sorry. This is another Robotech. Mostly because I wanted to really do a touch on Protoculture. A lot of people don't know what that is. A lot of people in the know don't know what that is. It's just one of those things that, they touch upon, and they explain in some of the books, but they don't really tell you exactly. And the long and short of it is, protoculture is the energy you get when you stop the germination of the Invid flower of life. Now, a lot of you are going, what the hell did he just say? The invalid flower? What? No. The Invid flower of life. Discovered on the Invid homeworld by the trolley scientist Zor. He went there to study the properties and the effects it had on the people there, the Invid. They were a people that were more of a hive mind. They didn't really have individual consciousness. Well, yes and no, but it was more of a hive mind. They dealt and they worked together to betterment of everyone. Zor went there, found these plants and these creatures called pollinators, which had a symbiotic relationship that the pollinators would pollinate the flowers, of course, and the flowers would grow and give off this energy that would just help the Invid evolve and grow. Zor followed this, watched this very closely, became very good friends with the Invid Queen, basically the hive mind of the Invid, and as time went on, he took down his information and then reported back to his superiors back on Trolley, and they saw the potential for this. They thought, you know what, that's a very good thing, because you know what we could do with that. We could take that energy and put it and make space-fold technology. We could rule the universe. Now Zor, of course, being Zor, was like, that's not why I did this. I did this for the betterment of our people and all people. And they're like, yeah, we understand, but this will work for us too. We can go out there, we can spread our technology. And Zor went along with it a little bit, to the point that when he went back to the Invid homeworld, he got in really good with the Regent, the Invid hive mind, and basically stole the secrets of Protoculture. He stole quite a bit of the initial flower itself, some of the pollinators, and he went back to his people and they formed the Protoculture Matrix, basically an item that would create energy, basically stopping that germination of the Invid flower. Crap, I wore the wrong shirt. Never mind, I can do this. Just go ahead and change shirts. Hey, I got a little bit more than I bargained for. I got the shirt and the hat. Okay. Where was it? Oh, he took everything back to his masters, who later then became to call themselves the Robotech Masters. The people of Trolley used this new science that they had found to turn what they had as a small battle fleet to a giant battle fleet filled with like robots and machines that could do everything on its own, thinking computers, computers and machines that could change form at will, as needed, living forms out of this machinery, out of just changing themselves. They started That's when the Robotech Masters basically laid waste to their planet. Now they got everybody that they could together, went into their own ships, and half of the fleet underneath the Regent left and tried to figure out a way to evolve themselves to a more perfect form. The male half, he just wanted to kill things. So his whole thing was, as soon as he would detect the Invid flower of life on a planet, he would go to it and destroy it. And if he couldn't destroy it, he'd enslave it. So, it's basically what protoculture is. Now, as we go along, we find out in other series, and I know a lot of you are out there going, oh, he's bringing up the Sentinels. you got to read the books. There's a lot of weird shit that happens in it, but it's relatively good. I do mean relatively, but it's a continuation of the story, kind of gives you closure. Maybe. But in it, you get to see what happens when you meet other life forms that were affected by the Invid flower of life. You have living machines. You have people who basically live in a space technology, but they're running off of a peat moss kind of thing. But it's a very high, powerful peat moss. You have living stone people. All these different races, which are all bound together by the Invid flower of life. Mostly because that flower is found on their planets. And when they're found on their planets, they're basically considered to be the enemy. Any person who is found with the Invid flower of life is considered the enemy as per the Invid. I won't go too much into this, just because you don't really have to get too much into it. Protoculture itself has the ability to manipulate genetic structure. In the case of Dr. Lang, made him even smarter than he was, affected his pupils, made them all black. It affected the Zentradi because after extensive exposure to culture, basically men, women, they got more of their memories back, and they realized they were clones of these people that were enslaved by the Robotech Masters. The Robotech Masters themselves gave themselves long life through cloning itself. That's why in the Sentinels there is another Zor, a Zor clone. Has all the memories, all the intellect of Zor, and the hidden memories of Zor himself. Even in Southern Cross, there's a Zor clone, but this one is more for his fighting prowess. Towards the end, he realizes who he is, and realizes, oh shit, this is all my fault, and basically takes out the Masters. But that's Zor. He does get kind of a reprieve for himself at the very end, and spoilers for anybody who's really going to read the Sentinels. At the very end, there's a battle between the male part of the Invid, Zor, and one of the mechanical masters of one of the machine worlds. And then they basically get sent to another reality where the only thing that's there are all the pollinators for the Invid flower of life, which are little furball things with like ears. Kind of like a Cabot, but way too shaggy. He's there with Minmay, the fold engines. I think there's just 2 of them there, and that's it. It's a reality for themselves, but it's his legacy. He is now allowed to take everything, all the bad things that caused by the Invid flower of life, is now his. No one can use the pollinators anymore. No one can use the fold engines, and he's done us a great service by taking Minmay out of the picture. You know, poor guy, but Invid machinery is much different. And like I said, since they're all hive mind, you have people that, the Invid is basically controlled by one group. So they're really pissed off people, and they have every right to be. So, anyways, that's what I wanted to tell you today, was about Protoculture. Next week, I will do another one, but then the week after that, I will not be here. I am going to see the in-laws, so we are not going to be able to do one of these around that time. So, if you have any questions, concerns, anything, post them below. I'm happy to hear anything about this. If you've got anything for later, post it below. And that's about it. So, all of you out there, have a great weekend. And as I'd like one day to do,
time for go to bed.